9 minutes, please.
Indeed so. So let's revisit the Finnish public sector rhetoric. First of all, thanks for the researcher introduction. It's always a risk to be introduced as a researcher because it typically is almost as if you're a convict and that you have to be re-institutionalized into the real world. In any case, according to Business Finland, or previously Tekes, for Finland to be competitive globally, we need the world's best innovation ecosystems, where all the actors are closely networked. So this is the premise of today's talk. I'd like to tell you about Business Finland Connection, and Business Finland Connection is a production AI tool currently being used in-house at Tekes or Business Finland. It's a project that my company VXT Research has been contracted to do, and what the tool does is that it profiles and matchmakes companies and people. So as with all AI supposed projects, we begin with the data, and so is the beginning part of the story. Organizations across the board have quite deep and fragmented data. This is a typical story that you hear. In the case of Business Finland, there's lots of information and knowledge about companies, projects, research organizations, and people. Within this data are deep insights that, if extracted, can improve the business processes and business value to a large extent. So how do we do that? We start with the data warehouse of Business Finland, which is vast and deep. We look at data that is used in their CRM, document management systems, evaluation systems, what they call esitysmuistio, where all the advisors are typing in the contents or the comments about companies, research projects over the decades. We look at also some proprietary and confidential data, taxes and financial data from companies and researchers and or people or projects. So therein lies the challenge and why AI is supposedly useful in this case. The challenge is that we have to deal with fragmented or interoperable or non-interoperable data spanning lots of different tables, thousands of data points, but then most of all we're looking at some 700,000 plus documents of free-form texts, and within these free-form texts are the knowledge and insights that one would like to use for profiling. But because of the vastness of the documentation repository, it makes it impossible for a human to read it. So why is free-form text difficult to analyze? This might be quite obvious, but within a free-form text, a natural language text, so to say, there are a lot of topics that are important versus texts that are unimportant. So the topics are situated in rather haphazard areas within the text. How do we identify that and separate that from the noise? We also see heterogeneous types of data, so numerical data, categorical data, those that one might want to have as, for instance, metadata to enrich existing documentation, on top of which applications could be made. That's a big challenge with natural language text. And of course, the aspect of mixed languages is a big challenge, and not just languages that are translations of one another, but quite literally mixed within paragraphs in the natural language ramblings of the Tekes advisor. Now here I'd like to remind that this project is based on internal data that is confidential, and so this tool is unfortunately not used in the public space, but currently internally, although there are some plans in the pipeline. And I would encourage you to push Tekes as well for feedback and discussions about opening of data sets and so on. So let's talk a little bit about, in addition to this, what the AI is good for. This is a basic printout to illustrate the kind of outputs that the AI should be able to get. If you think of a keyword-based paradigm, you have drone that can be matched 100% with drone, but we would also like domain-specific semantic correlations to come forth, whereupon we can do proper profiling, like ilmakuvaus, which is obviously related to drone in the aerial photography and inspection and so on. So this is just another example. One can see an 80% correlation semantically between the two, whereas there are no texts that are repeated between one another. So this is the back end. What does it mean in practice? We have something to this effect that is a a search engine interface where the Tekes user or Business Finland advisor could input any query and look at projects and companies with very few clicks. Here, the texts that are shown here are only based on public data, therefore it's quite short. But the machine is able to retrieve from the deep data and put all the most important text to the top that the Business Finland advisor would be interested in. One can also look at the company profiles and thereby create a clear financial and or semantic profile of what companies mean. One can also search by organizations directly, or then we did this thing where we allow searching by Finland advisor people. And what's interesting there is that it's not profiled. The people are not profiled by some LinkedIn, but by the projects that they have been involved in, so using passive data. We have some filtering functions where we pull in all the metadata that has been extracted from the texts, allowing some quick filtering. This is a quick example of filtering by turnover, but there's a whole lot that we don't have to go into. Something that is maybe a bit more special to this Business Finland connection is this type of a view where all the same data sets that you see previously can be mapped on a landscape view, where the business advisor can then look at competition between different companies or then partnership possibilities for matchmaking. And it's interesting then maybe to note here that these texts are not tagged by humans, but then are automatically extracted by the algorithm, labeling effectively these different clusters of companies and projects and so on. So we have also something like this, which is an extension of the landscape view, showing the trends that are inherent to the Business Finland investment over time by topic. And so this is very important, that Business Finland advisor is able to segment by topics as well as, let's say, size of company and so on over the periods of time. So at the end of the day, to summarize, what does AI mean in this case, and what is the use case? It is profiling companies, research organizations, and people by finding the focus of free texts, bringing together financial performance, modeling to some extent, and then enriching the metadata in free-form text, and of course on that basis, understanding the links and relationships between different companies and the features that represent them. And here comes the so what question. So what is that good for? These are the use cases that are maybe the prominent expert augmentation use cases. Evaluation, so what is the fastest horse? Which research group is the fastest horse? That's a philosophical question, which we think insights can help clarify. Invest in Finland is a very important one that deserves just a few sentences. Invest in Finland, often the Finnish Tekes advisor gets a prompt from a big investor, let's say Alibaba, to ask, we have 200 million to invest. Please provide us with 10 startups or 10 SMEs that we would like to invest in. The advisor takes weeks to come up with a shortlist eventually. We'd like this tool to help them to do so. And they are using it for that purpose, as well as then the matchmaking aspects. Introduction or then competitive landscaping and understanding. So to close off, I'd like to say a few words about our company, VXT Research, and I'd like to invite you to speak to us if you have any questions at all about our other activities. To sum it up all in one word, we help our clients discover and demonstrate exactly how AI empowers the real-world business cases. So no gimmicks, no hackathon and consultancy templates and so on. Machine learning applied to real-life data results. Thank you very much. Thank you.